like the garden of the Lord, like the beautiful land of Egypt. So the verdict now of the land of Egypt was that it was beautiful, and that it likened to the Garden of Eden. And then I was like, that makes sense, because that means the blueprint, the original blueprint of what the garden looked like, was now misappropriated, manufactured in the form of Egypt. And it's like, the devil's work. Because that's what he does. He takes the things of the kingdom and he makes a fake version. And he uses the fake version to entice man away from the spiritual version. So it's like, no longer do we desire the original, the pure version. It's like, yeah, well, I can have the knockoff. So, it's cheaper, it's easier to obtain, I don't have to work as hard. So yeah, let me go for that version. So right now, Lot has chosen, he's opted in to go for the cheap knockoff of the Garden of Eden. Instead of like, oh no, yeah, we need to kind of, I want to get back to God. I'll take this one. So, and I mean, he's seen Egypt, because if you go into if you're in chapter 12, Lot was traveling with Abraham at the time. So they went to Egypt. They did live in Egypt. So he's seen Egypt with his own physical eyes. But to be able to liken it to the garden of the Lord, I was like, how would you be able to make that comparison unless someone has shown you what that looked like? So I just thought, oh my gosh, excuse me. I thought that was very, 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 very interesting. Wanted to share that with you guys. We'll go forward into verse 11. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan and set out towards the east. So again, just like Eve now, she made a choice for herself. She saw something and she made a choice. The devil has done exactly what he desired. He presented his advert and he was like, I think you should go for this. What do you think of this one? This looks good. And Lot made his decision, and he chose for himself. So now you can't really be saved from choices that you make for yourself, because you've consciously walked into something that you didn't get from God. You've made a choice to actually embark on something without consulting or fellowshipping with God. Abraham did, because you saw he went back to his altar and he called on the name of the Lord. But Lot made his choice and he's just like, yep, I've now chosen. I think this looks really, really good. And if you guys know the story of Lot, we're going to get there. I'm going to try and like wrap it up, because I don't want to stay on here too long. But if you know the story of Lot, it looked like the garden of the Lord. It looked like the beautiful land of Egypt. So what went wrong? Just before I jump ahead, actually no, I'll jump ahead. What went wrong? I'll jump ahead to what went wrong. First thing, verse 14 now, in chapter 14, sorry. There was now some war in the land, and because Abraham now went in a different direction, and I'll get back to that. But there was now war in the land in where the area that Lot went to, and to the point where him and his possessions were actually captured as spoils of war. Abraham had to now go to the rescue. So that's already part of the era of Lot. And many people in today's world, things look really enticing. Things look like, oh my God, it's my dream job. oh my gosh, I've always wanted this car. You know, people that get like really fast, like supercars, and then they end up wrapping it around a tree. Hopefully not fatally, but there has been cases. And it's like, why is it that we cannot desire things that actually benefit our lives? Why is it we have the things that we really burn for, naturally burn for, are those things that are just like, they just derail our lives? Sometimes I sometimes just ask myself this question, guys, and I'm really here just trying to encourage you guys to also ask the same kind of questions, because I think we spend a lot of time not asking ourselves certain questions because the truth is really hard to swallow. And when we just, because the moment that we actually are honest with ourselves and be like, oh yeah, that's really true, and then we actually now have to make the conscious decision to actually not do certain things and to say no to certain things, because we can accept that perhaps, even though it looks like it's really good, it's actually really bad. So yeah, Lot was captured. He was captured. It became a spoil of war. Abraham went to go and free him. Abraham did this. He was successful. You can please read 14, the chapter 14. It will detail to you the battle and how Abraham just, yeah, exemplified himself. 318 men, and they took out like 5 kingdoms worth of war, took all the spoils, and only sowed a tenth, and then gave everything back. So anyway, now if we skip forward to after he rescued Lot from captivity, and we go to verse 18, chapter 18. Just the end of chapter 18 now, the Lord appears to Abraham, and he doesn't say to Abraham, oh, by the way, we want to save Lot. He just said, oh, by the way, we're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of their sin is so great and grievous. So God now wanted to destroy it. But Abraham knew that Lot obviously was down there, so he's like, oh, he pleaded a case, and yeah, God said, even if there's 10, that he will not destroy the city. Now there wasn't even 10, to be honest. There actually wasn't 10, because Lot and his family were only 4. And even if you had included his sons-in-law who chose not to go, that would have even been 6. So yeah, it was going to get destroyed. So now, that's chapter 18. Now in chapter 19, we now hear about when the angels now went to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and they told Lot and his wife, and he told Lot, gather up your family and get out of here. We want to destroy the place, and yeah, upon you as mercy has been found. So, and obviously as a result of the pleading of Abraham to save anyone that it is found to be righteous in that city. So they were led away from the city, and they were told, do not look back. And if you've seen on the flyer for today, I'd said do not look back. And the reason I put that there is because if any of you again are familiar with the story of Lot, you will know that as they were fleeing, they were told don't look back, and the wife looked back. And if you know of the scripture from when Christ was speaking to his disciples, and he said, those that cling to their life will lose it. That was that scripture. Lot's wife, she looked back at the life that she once had. She clearly didn't have an issue with it. she was fine. She was curious. She was like, oh, what's going on there? Like, the life behind me was so, whether you just felt it was normal. I think so many people nowadays, everything has been normalized. So the fact that you will see, or the fact that they'll just, people will be drinking on the street, for example, or there's alcohol sold in all the shops, supermarkets, it's just, everything's normal. Cigarettes, normal. Drugs, normal. Sexual sin, normal. Brothels, normal. Mass nudity on social media, normal. Everything is normal. So now when it comes to time to leave that life, and we all heard scripture, Romans 12, do not conform to the ways of this world, but be renewed and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's like, this is really hard, because I have known this life forever. Now, I had a little look in scripture, and I couldn't see where Lot's wife came into it until he was actually in Sodom and Gomorrah. So my understanding is that he actually married whilst in Sodom and Gomorrah. This is where he actually had children, and his children grew up. Like this, his life was in Sodom and Gomorrah. So for his wife, I can see it must have been difficult, because for her, this was normal. She grew up around grievous sin. And to now be told, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, you must leave it behind and never look back. It was kind of like, but this is normal. I've known this. What am I going to do with my life? I've done this forever. This is all I know. And so she looked back. And what happened when she looked back? She turned to a pillar of salt. She turned to a pillar of salt. So those who cling to their life will lose it. It's just literally like a physical example of that scripture. That scripture is a lot more, that scripture is spiritual based, because I'm not telling you guys that you're physically going to turn to a pillar of salt. Not per se, anything is possible in the kingdom of God. But I'm not here to tell you that you're going to turn to a pillar of salt. I'm telling you to consider the life that you live now, and just be honest with yourselves. I mean, I'm just literally just want you guys to just understand how easy it is to steer your life into error when you use the mindset that you have been sold from childhood. It's so easy to land yourself in error. And so I kind of just want you to start asking yourself certain questions now, so you don't end up there in like 30 years time and just be like, oh, so if I didn't do that thing, maybe I shouldn't have held those drugs. Maybe I shouldn't have sold those drugs. Maybe I shouldn't have slept with that guy. Maybe I shouldn't have touched that girl. So many things that we have been made to believe are normal. I don't want you to end up in 20, 30 years time and realize and have to search for where it all went wrong. Lot didn't just go wrong when he chose Sodom and Gomorrah. I think Lot was already having conversations on the wrong side of the coin. Not gonna lie to you. That's what I already believe. And it's just now, because for him to now be having that level of conversation at that point when Abraham said, let's go our separate ways, he already just looked and he saw, and it was boom. He went and chose for himself. Now, Lot's troubles didn't end there with his wife dying. For those of you that will know, Lot then, at first he tried to choose a little, he tried to go into Zoar, but he didn't like it there. He felt too scared. It was too close to Sodom and Gomorrah. So he went up into the mountains where he was originally told to go. So he went up into mountains, and he was the victim of rape. He was a victim of rape. His daughters were like, oh, well, there's no men up here in the mountain, so let's get our dad drunk and we'll have sex with him, and then we will have children of our own so that we can continue the bloodline. And it's like, okay, so you were raped by your daughters and then you, raised your grandsons or grandson's sons? I don't know. You then raised them. Victim of incestual rape. That was the end of Lot. That was the end of Lot. But the land looked like the garden of the Lord, the beautiful land of Egypt. And it ended up with him as a victim of incestual rape. Not to say again, I mean, people can try and take me literally and be like, oh yeah, you mean you're saying that this is going to end like that? I'm not saying your life's going to end exactly like that. I really hope people don't try to take scripture that literally, but take the lesson that when we use our eyes to assess and discern between what is good and what is right for our lives, more often, I say more often than not all the time, you will find that it is not as it seems. And the outcome will often be different to what was actually sold to you in the first place. For Lot, it was extremely different. Like, it was light and dark, night and day. He saw a garden, like the Garden of Eden, and he ended up with ashes in Sodom and Gomorrah, in the mountaintop, being raped by his daughters. Very different outcome. And the guy had goats, he had herds and flocks. He was doing all right for himself. He was actually doing all right for himself. But he chose for himself at that point, and he ended up in a pretty sticky situation.